When a woman begins to pull away, silence enters the space where warmth once lived. And in that silence a question lingers: what now? The Chinese proverb reminds us, tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. Before you act, before you speak, there is wisdom in the pause. The first 48 hours are not about chasing or proving, they are about understanding. So let us explore, step by step, how to navigate this fragile moment, not with desperation, but with dignity, presence, and clarity. 1. The psychological lens. When someone begins to pull away, the immediate reaction is almost instinctive. We want to chase. We want to bridge the distance, to fill the silence with our words, our attention, our presence. But psychologists have identified this pattern as the pursuer-distancer dynamic, a phenomenon deeply rooted in human attachment and behavior. In essence, the more we pursue, the further the other retreats, not because love diminishes, but because the act of chasing itself signals tension, urgency, and insecurity. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that when you are calm and composed, people naturally gravitate toward you? There is a magnetic quality in someone who is self-contained, in someone who exudes stability rather than anxiety. Urgency, on the other hand, triggers subconscious alarm bells. It speaks to fear rather than confidence. When we rush to fill a void created by another's withdrawal, we unintentionally communicate that our sense of worth is dependent on their presence. In the first 48 hours, this is precisely what must be avoided. Restraint, rather than action, becomes the most powerful tool. Psychologists describe this through the lens of attachment theory. Humans form bonds in infancy that shape how we respond to distance and intimacy later in life. Those with anxious attachment tendencies may feel a surge of panic when someone pulls away, compelling them to chase, to prove themselves, to reassert connection. Conversely, those with avoidant attachment might instinctively retreat in response to someone else's distancing, creating a push-pull effect that can spiral into frustration and miscommunication. Awareness of these underlying mechanisms is critical. By understanding why we behave the way we do, we gain a measure of control over our responses. Ask yourself, am I reacting from a place of fear or from a place of strength? The distinction is subtle but vital. Fear-driven behavior is reactive, impulsive, and often short-sighted. Strength-driven behavior, in contrast, is measured, conscious, and strategic. When you pause and give space, you are not passively waiting for her return, you are actively demonstrating emotional maturity. You are showing that your identity and stability are not contingent upon another person's actions. Viktor Frankl, the renowned psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, once said, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." In the context of a relationship, her withdrawal is the stimulus. Your response, whether you chase desperately or step back with calm discernment, defines not only the trajectory of your interaction but also the evolution of your own character. This is where the power lies, not in control over her but in mastery over yourself. Behavioral psychology also highlights the importance of timing and perception. When a woman pulls away, the intensity of your immediate reaction can either escalate or diffuse the situation. Acting too quickly can overwhelm her, triggering defensive mechanisms that push her further. Waiting, observing, and responding with composed intention communicates confidence, patience, and respect for both her boundaries and your own integrity. This is a paradox. Doing less in this scenario achieves more. Consider the role of nonverbal cues. Subtle signals, like tone of voice, body language, and energy, speak louder than words. A text sent in desperation, a call made repeatedly, or an overt display of anxiety communicates insecurity even more strongly than verbal pleas. Conversely, maintaining calm composure, engaging in meaningful activities, and expressing genuine interest without dependence conveys strength and self-possession. Humans are wired to sense authenticity. True attraction is drawn not to neediness but to reliability and groundedness. Another important principle lies in the observation of reciprocity. Psychologists note that emotional energy is cyclical. Giving too much when it is not reciprocated can create imbalance, whereas measured attention allows the other person space to process and reflect. It invites natural movement rather than coerced interaction. Ask yourself, am I seeking connection or am I seeking validation? The answer informs your next steps. Lastly, consider the perspective of long-term impact. Responding with restraint in the first 48 hours does more than prevent immediate tension. It lays a foundation for healthier relational patterns. It teaches both parties the value of boundaries, personal agency, and emotional responsibility. Over time, this approach fosters deeper mutual respect and attraction rooted not in anxiety, but in authentic connection. The first 48 hours are a crucible, a test not of her feelings but of your emotional intelligence. By understanding the psychological dynamics at play, by observing your impulses, and by consciously choosing measured action, you transform a potentially destabilizing moment into an opportunity for growth. Each second of restraint, each moment of self-awareness, reinforces the principle that true attraction is not won through desperation, but through presence, composure, and inner strength. In the end, the lesson is clear. Your reaction is your responsibility. She may pull away, but your response defines who you are in that moment. Fear-driven pursuit weakens your presence. Strength-driven patience amplifies it. And as Frankl reminds us, the space between stimulus and response is not a void. It is a realm of immense power where freedom and growth converge. 2. The Stoic perspective. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers who cultivated resilience, composure, and unshakable virtue, offer us a framework for navigating moments of uncertainty in relationships. Moments when the tides of another's affection shift unexpectedly. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." These words are not merely abstract advice. They are a blueprint for emotional sovereignty. When a woman pulls away, the event itself is beyond your control. What is fully within your control is your mind, your character, your response. Imagine your mind as a citadel. Outside events, her distance, her silence, her shifting moods, are the winds and waves battering its walls. The Stoic approach is not to chase the waves or attempt to redirect the storm. Instead, it is to fortify the citadel, ensuring that your inner life remains steadfast regardless of external turbulence. This is not passivity, it is mastery. Each thought, each impulse, is an opportunity to exercise virtue. You are measured not by her actions but by your own composure. In the first 48 hours, this translates into clear, actionable principles. Do not beg. Stoicism teaches that a man of reason does not plead for the attention of others. Desperation is the enemy of dignity. It signals a surrender of your own authority to someone else's whims. Begging communicates neediness, which is a signal that your internal world is dependent on external validation. In contrast, when you resist this urge, you are affirming that your sense of self is autonomous. Do not explain excessively. Every attempt to rationalize, justify, or clarify your feelings in the hope of eliciting reassurance dilutes your presence. The Stoics valued clarity and brevity of action. Epictetus advised that one should focus on what is within one's control and accept what is not. Her distance is a reality you cannot command. Your explanation cannot change her inner state. Excessive explanation is an outward manifestation of internal imbalance, a dialogue with fear rather than with reason. Do not chase validation. Human beings have a natural craving to feel accepted, to be acknowledged, to be affirmed. But when validation becomes the goal of action, the spirit becomes fragile. Stoicism teaches self-sufficiency in virtue. True confidence is not contingent upon her responses. Imagine an oak tree in a storm. It does not bend to every gust, yet it does not resist unnecessarily either. Its roots anchor it firmly. Your strength in these moments lies in being rooted, grounded in your own principles, emotions, and dignity. This rootedness has a dual function. First, it communicates stability without arrogance. A person who remains calm under tension radiates an energy that naturally draws others toward them. She may be swayed by her own emotional fluctuations, yet your equilibrium becomes a stabilizing force even if subtly. Second, it cultivates clarity within yourself. You begin to see your reactions, your desires, and your impulses for what they truly are. Stoicism is as much about self-discovery as it is about external composure. It trains the mind to observe itself without attachment to transient outcomes. Ask yourself a piercing question. If love demands that you betray your own self-respect, is it love or illusion? Stoicism compels us to recognize the difference between authentic attachment and emotional dependency. Authentic love is not coercive. It does not demand the surrender of one's character. If your actions must undermine your principles to maintain connection, the connection is not a reflection of mutual respect but of imbalance. This recognition is both sobering and liberating. It illuminates the boundaries of what is morally and emotionally tenable. Consider the practical manifestations of this philosophy in the first 48 hours. You do not text repeatedly. You do not offer explanations for your feelings. You do not react impulsively to perceived slights or silence. Instead, you engage with your own life, your work, your friendships, your routines, with intention. This is not avoidance, it is cultivation. By redirecting energy inward, you not only protect your dignity but also enhance your attractiveness. A Stoic mind is a mind that thrives independently of external circumstance. Moreover, the Stoic perspective encourages a radical redefinition of control. Control is not about manipulating outcomes, it is about mastering one's internal environment. You cannot command her affection, but you can command your presence, your patience, and your judgment. The paradox of this approach is that by relinquishing the desire to control her, you often create a space where natural attraction can resurface. Effortless dignity is more compelling than any act of persuasion. The ancient Stoics also emphasized reflection and meditation as tools to maintain inner equilibrium. Imagine beginning each day by contemplating the impermanence of external events, including her moods or actions. This reflection fosters acceptance without passivity. It is an exercise in aligning perception with reality. By anticipating fluctuations in her behavior without emotional upheaval, you prepare yourself to remain composed regardless of circumstance. Finally, consider the broader implication of practicing Stoicism in this context. It cultivates long-term emotional resilience. Life, relationships, and human connections are inherently unpredictable. By internalizing the principles of composure, self-respect, and measured response, you are not only navigating these initial 48 hours with strength but also training yourself for the unpredictability of all future interactions. Your mind becomes your citadel, unshaken by external chaos, grounded in wisdom and resilient in the face of emotional turbulence. 3. The spiritual reflection. When a woman pulls away, the first sensation is often one of confusion, sometimes fear, and occasionally a sense of loss. Yet, beneath the surface of this discomfort lies an invitation, a subtle, profound gift disguised as pain. In the ancient wisdom of spiritual reflection, every challenge, every moment of distance or rejection carries a mirror. It asks us to look inward rather than outward. It asks, who am I beyond the need for external affirmation? What is my soul seeking to understand about itself? The initial 48 hours of her withdrawal are particularly revealing. This is a period that can either deepen dependency or awaken awareness. In this stillness, in this pause, there is an opportunity to witness the patterns of your own mind. What is being revealed to you in her absence? Is it a fear of abandonment, a gnawing anxiety that you are incomplete without her presence? Or perhaps a need for control, the desire to orchestrate outcomes beyond your reach? Maybe it is an unresolved wound from the past, an echo of childhood insecurities or previous relational traumas that resurfaces in the face of perceived distance. Rumi, the 13th century Sufi poet, offers profound guidance for such moments. Try to accept the changing seasons of your soul, even if you have not prepared for them. Her withdrawal is one of those changing seasons. It is a shift, a subtle turning of emotional currents, a moment where old habits of seeking, grasping, or reacting can be observed and transformed. Acceptance does not mean passivity. It does not mean resignation. It means allowing the experience to enter fully, to feel the discomfort, and to use it as a teacher rather than a tormentor. Ask yourself, what lesson is my soul being asked to learn? This question turns the lens inward. It shifts focus from the external, her behaviors, her distance, her moods, to the internal landscape of your own mind and heart. In this reflective space, you may recognize a pattern. Moments when you seek validation, when you feel unmoored by absence, when you attempt to control outcomes that are inherently uncertain. These realizations are not failures. They are signposts, pointing to areas of growth and deeper understanding. Next, consider, what part of me is seeking completion in another? We live in a society that glorifies relational completion, the idea that our wholeness depends on another person. Yet the spiritual perspective teaches that no external presence can fill the inner void completely. True wholeness begins within. When we depend on someone else to soothe our fears, affirm our worth, or stabilize our emotions, we give away the power to ourselves. Her pulling away is a gentle reminder to reclaim that power, to cultivate presence, and to nurture the self that has always been sufficient, even in solitude. Another essential reflection emerges: can I sit with my own company without craving hers? Solitude is often mistaken for loneliness, but in spiritual practice, solitude is sacred. It is the crucible in which the soul discovers its own depth, its own beauty, its own resilience. Sitting with yourself without distraction, without reaching for a phone, a message, or any external reassurance, teaches patience, self-respect, and mindfulness. It illuminates the capacity for joy, curiosity, and serenity that exists independently of relational dynamics. In these first 48 hours, silence becomes your guide. The absence of her immediate attention creates a space for contemplation and self-exploration. Use this space deliberately. Journal your thoughts, meditate, or simply observe the flow of your emotions without judgment. Notice the subtle layers of desire, fear, and hope that arise. These observations are not only a map of your inner terrain, they are an initiation into emotional mastery, a rehearsal for responding from depth rather than instinct. Spiritual reflection also invites a radical shift in perspective, the understanding that her actions are not a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of her journey, her state, and her own soul's processes. When a woman pulls away, it is not a verdict on you, it is an event unfolding in her consciousness. By disentangling your self-worth from her behaviors, you cultivate a state of grace that is impervious to volatility, that moves from attachment toward liberation. Ask another powerful question. What does it mean to love without attachment? Loving from a spiritual standpoint is not about grasping, controlling, or demanding reciprocity. It is about appreciating presence, honoring autonomy, and engaging in connection while remaining anchored in your own completeness. Her withdrawal is a test, not of affection but of awareness. Can you witness the ebb and flow of love without losing yourself in it? Finally, the spiritual lens teaches that these moments are sacred opportunities for transformation. The first 48 hours are not just about her, they are about cultivating wholeness in yourself. They are about observing the self that has been conditioned to seek externally and beginning to experience the self that is whole internally. This process nurtures resilience, patience, and emotional depth. It is the quiet alchemy in which pain transforms into wisdom, absence into insight, and longing into self-mastery. In the stillness of reflection, your soul begins to awaken. You see that love in its highest form is not possession, it is presence. Connection is not control, it is communion. And in the moments when another pulls away, you learn that the most enduring relationship is the one you cultivate with yourself, a relationship that requires neither validation nor completion from anyone else. The first 48 hours become not a period of anxiety, but a crucible of awakening, where solitude becomes your teacher and inner growth becomes your companion. 4. The practical steps. When a woman pulls away, understanding the theory behind the psychology, the philosophy of Stoicism, or the spiritual lesson is valuable, but without practical action, knowledge alone often leaves us paralyzed. Action bridges the gap between insight and transformation. The first 48 hours are a critical window, and what you do, or consciously refrain from doing, sets the tone for the relationship's future dynamics. This framework offers actionable, structured steps that transform the moment of uncertainty into an opportunity for self-mastery, clarity, and authentic presence. Step 1. Pause. The first instinct is to react, to text, call, explain, or chase. But reaction is rarely productive. The pause is your first line of defense. This is the moment to step back from the emotional impulse and observe it. Breathe deeply, allowing yourself to feel the initial surge of anxiety, disappointment, or confusion without immediately translating it into action. Journaling can be particularly powerful. Write down what you are feeling without censoring yourself. Ask yourself, why am I compelled to reach out right now? Am I seeking control, reassurance, or validation? Reflection in this phase is not passive, it is preparatory. It trains your mind to differentiate between fear-driven impulses and conscious choice. During this pause, notice the subtle internal patterns. Does your heart race? Do you feel an urgent need to fix the situation? Awareness of these automatic reactions is essential. The more you can sit with discomfort, the less power it has over your decisions. This is the moment where self-discipline intersects with emotional intelligence. By pausing, you regain control over your mind and set the stage for measured action in the subsequent steps. Step 2. Give space. Space is the crucible in which attraction and clarity are restored. Do not send messages, calls, or any attempts to force communication. The natural instinct to bridge the distance is counterproductive. It can trigger resistance or overwhelm her, deepening her withdrawal. Allow her energy to return naturally, respecting her autonomy and emotional rhythm. Giving space also sends a subtle but powerful message. You are composed, self-sufficient, and not desperate for validation. In practice, this may feel difficult. The mind wants immediate reassurance, but this restraint is a form of strength. It communicates confidence without words and establishes an invisible boundary that is both protective and attractive. Think of it as emotional landscaping, creating an environment where calm, grounded energy can flourish, rather than chasing or crowding. Step 3. Center yourself. The third step is inward. Invest in your own body, mind, and work. Physical activity, creative endeavors, professional focus, and mental challenges shift attention away from the anxious pull of uncertainty. Meditation, deep breathing exercises, or journaling reinforce this process. This step is not distraction, it is cultivation. It signals that your equilibrium does not hinge upon another person's presence or behavior. Centering yourself also has the effect of restoring perspective. By engaging fully in your own life, you reinforce the truth that your value and stability are self-contained. In these hours, ask yourself, how can I nurture the aspects of my life that make me feel grounded and complete? How can I cultivate energy that is magnetic rather than needy? The answer lies in deliberate engagement with your own growth, interests, and well-being. Step 4. Reconnect calmly. After the 48-hour period, when the emotional intensity has stabilized, you may choose to reach out, but with caution, mindfulness, and composure. A light, non-pressuring message works best. Warm, brief, and centered without any plea or expectation. Avoid explanations, justifications, or attempts to elicit reassurance. The goal is not to win her back, but to re-establish connection on neutral, balanced terms. This step reflects a critical principle. Interaction should come from equilibrium, not desperation. The difference is subtle but profound. When you reach out from a place of calm, self-possession, and authenticity, your communication carries an energy that is compelling rather than overwhelming. The message becomes a reflection of your own centeredness, not a response to insecurity. Throughout all 4 steps, the overarching principle is clear. You are not seeking to regain control over her. You are seeking to return to your own equilibrium. The first 48 hours are a test, not of her feelings but of your capacity to manage your mind, maintain composure, and respect both your needs and hers. The act of pausing, giving space, centering yourself, and reconnecting thoughtfully cultivates mastery over your emotional world. In practice, these steps are interconnected, forming a cycle rather than a linear sequence. Pausing enables space. Space supports self-centering. Centering prepares calm reconnection. Each step reinforces the others, creating a rhythm of self-discipline, reflection, and grounded action. The longer you maintain this cycle, the more your emotional resilience grows, and the more your presence becomes magnetic without manipulation. Remember, clarity and structure are your allies. Chaos, impulsivity, and fear only amplify tension and insecurity. By committing to these practical steps, you transform an uncertain, potentially destabilizing moment into an opportunity for growth, reflection, and emotional empowerment. Her distance is no longer a source of anxiety. It becomes a mirror through which you can witness your capacity for patience, composure, and centeredness. Finally, internalize this truth. The first 48 hours are not about controlling outcomes, they are about controlling yourself. By mastering this window of time, you create a foundation for long-term relational dynamics that are healthier, more balanced, and mutually respectful. You emerge not as someone desperate to recover affection, but as someone who commands presence, stability, and self-respect, qualities that endure far beyond any single interaction. Inspirational, emotional, leaving the viewer empowered. So, when she pulls away, do not crumble. Do not chase. Do not fear. Instead, embrace the wisdom of stillness. Remember the Japanese proverb, sit quietly, doing nothing, and the grass grows by itself. You cannot force closeness, but you can cultivate the strength within that naturally draws others back. Ask yourself one final question. If you truly loved yourself first, how differently would you respond? The first 48 hours are not a test of her love. They are a test of your self-mastery. And in mastering yourself, you unlock the only love that never fades, the love within.